I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. All right, let's get rocking here.
Okay. I think we're all set to get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will start with our first question with Larry Higgs from NJ Advanced Media. Larry.
Two questions. First one is airport related, and that's basically, I understand that the completion of Terminal A or the opening of Terminal A has been pushed back to the end of the year. I want to find out what were some of the reasons for that. When talking to other agencies, they've had problems with the supply chain, labor. What's driving that? And the second question is about AirTrain. I understand a contractor was supposed to be selected, and that's been pushed off. So has that happened, and what's the reason for that?
So with the first part, Larry, there'll be an opening of Terminal A, and it's going to be magnificent and beautiful and wonderful. We're obviously not going to open it until it is ready. There have been delays because of supply chain issues, COVID issues, with battling a number of elements. I will tell you, the executive director and folks are there weekly. We're watching. It's coming together beautifully, but we were not going to open it prematurely and not having all the systems tested. When it opens, and you'll hear about that in the very near future, before the end of the year, I think everybody will be astonished and amazed. It's going to be a wonderful asset for the Port Authority to really be proud of. With regard to the second part of your question, with regard to AirTrain, the bids were out, as you are aware, and the numbers came back for a variety of reasons higher than anticipated. We're working internally to see what we can do to make it a more competitive bid. We are determined to replace AirTrain, and again, you'll hear more about that in the near future. But it will get done. Part three to that question?
Follow up.
Yes.
What percentage is Terminal 1 completed? What it was, 80%, 90%? Where is that?
Listen, I would say it's north of 90, but don't hold me to it. But I would say it's north of 90. It's really close.
Larry, this is Rick. And by the way, I'm participating virtually because I tested positive for COVID on Sunday, so I'm isolating, but didn't want to miss your questions. So I asked the chairman's approval to participate remotely. Just remember that that Terminal A, the new Terminal A, will open in 2 phases. So that's always been the plan. It is the plan, and what will open imminently is the first 21 gates, and then there'll be a follow-on phase 2, 9 or 12 months later, which is another 12 gates.
Yeah, just so we're not confused, I thought that was understood, Larry. So when I said north of 90%, it was with regard to phase 1, which has been talked about in terms of the 21 gates.
Thank you, Larry. Next question is Colleen Wilson with the record. Colleen?
Yeah, just more on Newark Airport. But so Terminal B, can we talk about that? And
Sure.
That's in a planning phase, I think. And yeah, what's the status there as well?
So listen, obviously focus on Terminal A, and it's close to its completion. There have been $35 million set aside to look at the planning of Terminal B and look at the entire planning of the entire property of Newark Airport. So you're going to be hearing something relatively soon about what our next phase is, but we are intent on creating, rebuilding an entire Terminal B, but that's down the road just a bit, but it is clearly we are in the planning stages.
And just following up, because I know that the capital plan, there were concerns that the capital plan might have like something like Terminal B that had not been yet in construction could be held up because of COVID and revenue issues. So it sounds like it's very much in the planning phase and not going to be held up.
Listen, we've had there was some slowdown of some of the work, and we've had to extend the shelf life of some of the construction during the COVID because of the revenue downturn. We are fully moving ahead and studying Terminal B as part of an overhaul of doing a master plan with regard to the entire Newark Airport. So I am really excited to say Terminal B is next.
Next question is virtual. Pat McGean with the New York Times. Pat, floor is yours.
Hi, yeah, I hope you can hear me. I was going to ask you about AirTrain, but that's been asked. So I would like to ask about the seaports. The numbers are pretty astounding in the growth of cargo volumes. Is that creating any problems at the seaports? I'm wondering how much more volume you can handle and, just sort of where you are in terms of full capacity?
Well, I mean, two things. I think the reason you're seeing the port numbers that are saying they're either number one or number two, and have surpassed Long Beach and Los Angeles in some capacity, is because of the forefathers of the port years ago talked about raising the Bayonne Bridge and the dredging that went on, and having some additional capacity at the ports. And we have to do other things, rebuild the wharf and other mechanical things that will allow this growth to continue. We have the numbers that we're looking at now, and maybe Rick may have them at his fingertips, but we are exceeding pre-COVID numbers, Pat. It is astonishing, but it is a credit to the men and women who were down there moving the cargo with such efficiency, and some of the planning with the rail to complement, the actual infrastructure and the dredging are allowing this added capacity that would not have happened 4 or 5 years ago. Rick, you want to add anything to that?
Well, I would just say one of the challenges, I guess, let's put it this way, which is as the flood of cargo expands, the Port Department has looked at every aspect of the operation, working with our partners, the marine terminals, the ILA, everyone. This is the railroads. So one looks at every aspect of the port's operation in order to see moves that can be made to maximize its capacity. One of the most recent initiatives of the Port Department was looking at the number of empty containers, which was a real problem in terms of being able to handle an increased level of import containers. And what we announced a month ago, the imposition of fees in the event that the number of empties on the port property was not reduced. And that has had a very positive impact. The ocean carriers have stepped up. The backlog of empties is being reduced. That increases the capacity of the port. I use that only as an example, which is that the Port Department is looking at every aspect of the operation, Saturday gate hours, working with the marine terminals in terms of how it can continue to handle this extraordinary run of record monthly volumes. So we don't quite know how high up is at the moment. It is a challenge for the Port Department, but to their enormous credit, it's really to the entire community. The fact is that the majority of ships go directly into anchorage, to the extent that a percentage of them are sent to the anchorage. The average wait time over the past, certainly up through the time we're talking now this year, has been in the single-digit days, 4, 5, 6 days. So they are handling it. They're handling everything that's been thrown at them, and they're taking a variety of initiatives. I've given you one example to increase the capacity of the port.
Yeah, if I could just expand on that, Pat. The idea of having this, the fee structure for the empty containers was done, and it's only been a discussion, has not been implemented yet. We have allowed for an open discussion Q&A process, which we're going to be tweaking come October 1st. But by virtue of having that open discussion with our partners, we've seen a dramatic reduction in open containers, and it's going to allow for further capacity down the road. And we have those numbers. I thought there was a 10% reduction last month. And if anybody has a need, we can have our Port Department talk to you specifically today about the exact numbers, but it is significant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Chairman, we had one quick follow-up question from Colleen.
Yes.
I just forgot to ask earlier about, there was a United flight last night that flew out of Newark that sparked and I think had some debris fall. Just wanted to see if the Port Authority responded to that in any way, and what any other details or context you can provide.
Huntley, do we have any information on that?
And we can get that to you, Colleen. We have a readout. We can get that to you right now.
Okay, we'll follow up with that.
Final question, Zach Griff at the Points Guy, virtual. Zach, floor is yours.
Zach, you there? All right, if he's not there, maybe we'll have one of our press folks follow up and see if he has a question.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Zach, Zach, one more, Zach. We have you? All right, thank you, everyone. That concludes the Q&A.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Same time next year.